Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And we have some important headlines to cover this morning. But before we get into those headlines, one of you sent me this troubling story. Now, this is a real intake form that was given to a 14-year-old girl in a doctor's office while she was waiting in the exam room. And what happened was the nurse actually handed this form directly to the daughter and did not include the parent in this exchange of communication. Now, I'm going to zoom in on this form, and I can't stay on it long because of the way things are here on YouTube, but you guys are smart people, so take a second to look at your screen as I zoom this up here. This is Community Health Center. And as you can see here, what do you think of yourself as? What do you think of yourself as? Remember, this is 14 years old. Pronouns and everything else. Now, every day is a nightmare with these people as they hide around every corner trying to pick off our children, right? And the controllers won't stop. They're relentless at trying to drive a wedge between us and our children. So as a parent, you have to be vigilant. You always have to be watching for this kind of behavior. They're already getting the programming in school, but now it's spilled over into the doctor's office. Unbelievable. Now, let's get into some of these headlines today. There's a lot going on, as Btwn and Ouchy are basically admitting defeat in so many words. Let me make sure we're connected, and we'll keep going with today's headlines. All right. Okay. Awesome. Looks like we're live. Let's get into this. Now, Ouchy says that there are many, many more of us than he imagined, those who believe in bodily autonomy. Ouchy says the anti-Pokemon sticker movement is bigger than we think. Now, isn't that a wonder? Isn't it a wonder that so many people believe in the way that we do, despite the fact that they've done everything they can to censor and fact check every single thing that they can? Deplatforming people. I mean, YouTube, there's very few of us left here on YouTube. And it's only because we've been so careful about how we say things. We're a resort now to using, code words like we're in third grade or something. And it's the only reason why we're still standing here. And so basically, Ouchy is now saying that this movement is much larger than he anticipated, and he underestimated it. Well, I think it's because people have real thoughts and opinions. And we're allowed to have real thoughts and opinions. Now, I'm not going to read this article because they like to load up these articles with pitfalls, words that will trigger the algo so they can sweep away more of the information that needs to be out there. Now, also understand that a lot of the misinfo that they love to hang their hat on, some of that has been planted. So you got to be really careful which battles you pick when you go to debate someone or stand up for your bodily autonomy and your medical rights, because some of these concepts and claims have been put there intentionally by the enemy. Now, this is CIA 101. This is what these people do. They always do this. They've been running that same playbook for a long, long time. It's called a psyop. Okay. So just be careful with that. Keep that in mind before you make a claim beyond the shadow of a doubt that you know that this is this or that's that. It's okay to have an opinion, but leading with some of this stuff can get us all in a lot of trouble and fall right into their trap, because then they can easily discredit it, and then that hurts people's awareness. Now, let's get into this next article. Btwn, he's on the ropes as well, after several court rulings against his mandate. Btwn administration officially withdraws its Pokemon sticker rule. Now, this is good news for now, but basically, he had no choice but to drop them because these judges came against him. Let's read this one and see if there's any clues about nurses in the military, because they're the ones that were left out to dry, weren't they? Btwn has officially withdrawn a rule that would have required workers at big companies to get the Pokemon sticker or face regular VidCo testing requirements. So OSHA basically confirmed that they're withdrawing it on Wednesday, but it said they still strongly encourage workers to get the sticker. So let's see if they mention nurses or military in here. OSHA has never before imposed such a mandate, nor has Congress, the court's majority wrote. Indeed, although Congress has enacted significant legislation addressing VidCo and the spamdemic, it has declined to enact any measure similar to what OSHA has promulgated here. The justice has left in place a mandate for the healthcare providers and who receive Medicare or Medicaid funding. Now, this is interesting because most healthcare providers do receive federal Medicare or Medicaid funding. That's how they stay in business. But there are some that don't. They don't accept Medicare, so those nurses would not be required. If you're in that situation where you do not accept Medicaid and you're a nurse, then you might be in good shape. It says the rule affects 10.4 million workers. So there's the update on the nurses. All right, let's get into this next article here. Now, this is interesting. They're trying to bust out a new variant, Btwn. Now, if you scramble this up, it spells Abba, which we know is father. Wonder if this is mockery. It's Omicron's cousin. It's arrived in the U.S., but they say don't panic yet. So this is just on the radar. I'm not going to get into the details of Btwn, but just know that they're talking about this. It showed up in Massachusetts, apparently, and they're saying that it's not clear whether Btwn is pushing out the original Omicron variant, and they don't think this is going to be a big deal, but we'll see. Omicron wasn't supposed to be a big deal either, was it? Now, as we've talked about before, this whole sticker program is shaping up to be a once every 6 month program. Now, understand that every time you go back and get another sticker, your odds go up for things to happen. Because it's one thing to have the odds that they're telling us for 1, but then you go 2 and booster and booster and booster. I mean, when is this ever going to end? Myrna's booster may wane after 6 months. So, this was always going to be the future. Why? Because it's conflict of interest, isn't it? Why would they stop making more and more meds to give to us when every time they do, they're strengthening their hold financially on America? We're not going to read that article either. Now, this one's important. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this because everybody's into crypto, aren't they? So, lo and behold, tucked inside of Btwn's infrastructure bill is an unconstitutional crypto surveillance program. Now, we talked about this every so often, and when crypto first came out, my first feelings were crypt means death, and didn't really know about crypto and what it really entailed, but over the years, I've learned more and more about it, and it's becoming, to me, more and more clear. And I began to see that this whole thing was probably a setup, a learning tool, or a practice run for the new world currency. And our involvement in it gave them the opportunity to work out all the bugs, didn't it? Now, I was talking to my son about crypto mining, and he's having a problem finding graphics cards for his gaming computer. And he says there's a huge graphics card shortage because these drivers, as soon as they become available on the market, there are entities that buy all of them up and then sell them back to people at 3 times the price. Now think about this for a moment. Think about the level of corruption that could occur and how the rich could be getting richer. Think about this type of scenario where this is some kind of Ponzi scheme where the rich are given access to these drivers, these graphics cards, to buy hundreds or thousands of them for tens of thousands or millions of dollars, and then mark them up 3 times the price. Well, they've just tripled their money. And because of corruption, they are the first ones given access to these cards to purchase them. That's one way that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Now, why are these graphics cards in demand? Well, according to my son, he says that they're crypto miners and people that will fill up entire rooms full of computers so that they can data mine crypto. And so they need graphics cards. And this is why they're in short supply. So, none of this sounds good for people like you and me, the poor people. Now, as he was explaining all this to me, it reminded me of something else. Another Ponzi scheme that sounded very, very familiar. Remember over the last 25 years how millions of Americans bought into the solar dream, solar panels? Now, solar panels in and themselves are not bad. But when you link those solar panels into the grid, it is bad. Because you've given up your control of your own solar panels. And you're propping up a pipe dream for the elite. You're building their infrastructure, kind of like the crypto mining rooms and buildings. You're building the infrastructure for the elite, and at any point they could just pull it out from under you. Well, look what's happening with those people who bought solar panels and linked them into the grid. With the swipe of a pen, California is set to actually charge you to interface your solar panels to the grid. The number right now is $57. Of course it's $57, right? Because that's Jive, G, Whiz, and beyond. They're also proposing to cut the value of the power that you were getting. You were getting a certain value for that power that you fed into the grid from your panels. They're proposing on cutting that by 80%, which means that it's going to take you a lot longer to pay off your debt that you incurred when you put those panels on your house. And even for the people that already paid off their debt for their panels, they're not getting what they were promised in terms of money back from the grid. Now, what are they going to do with that $57 surcharge? Well, we talked about this in a previous show when this news broke from California. The surcharge is going to go back to finance low-income families who can't afford solar. So in other words, they're taking your surcharge and they're reinvesting it right back into the solar grid. So basically, the people that got solar helped build their own screwing, didn't they? Wow. And now the same thing is happening with crypto. A lot of entrepreneurial people built the crypto infrastructure and Bitcoin, only to have it hijacked with the swipe of a pen. Now, nobody is trying to deny that there have been recent federal regulations that require crypto exchanges to report earnings and private information, and we all know that that is driving down the value of crypto and Bitcoin, because the entire reason why people went into Bitcoin and crypto was to balance out the financial systems, kind of like Robin Hood, to put the odds back in the favor of the little person who we've been manipulated economically for our entire lives. Now, the feds here in America anyway have gone as far as to target specific cryptocurrencies like Library. Library is a great platform. They basically copy, or not Library, but Library is the currency. But Odysee is the platform that uses Library currency, cryptocurrency. And it was a great concept, basically creating a video platform outside of censorship. using a crypto base. Well, Feds came in and sabotaged that. They basically sued Library, and as you guys know, the price of Library is in the toilet for that reason. Because basically what the Feds did was made it impossible to convert your library credits into cash. And when you do that, you basically kill the currency. So, why did they come after Library? Well, they were a censorship-free platform. And, these entities, these controllers want to be able to tell you what to say and what not to say. And if you don't play ball, they come after you. So, this impenetrable crypto system isn't so impenetrable, is it? And it almost sounds like a complete setup since the start. Now understand that these kinds of assaults will only increase until the Feds have completely taken over and taxed the entire crypto system. Now we've also had discussions about how the labor of the many in the crypto world is only making the rich richer, because they need the participation of the many in order to make the profits at the top go sky high, don't they? It's another pyramid scheme. Just like the stock market needs the participation of the little people in order to make it work. So that brings us to this story, this crypto surveillance, another tactic that will further drive down the price of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and everything else. Let's read this. Now, of course, there will be a legal process to this. I'm sure people will sue. I don't know how this is all going to shake out, but it says, before Btwn signed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act into law, many groups spoke out against a provision that broadens the tax code definition of broker. But there's another hidden crypto provision in this new law that amends part of the tax code in a way that will greatly expand financial surveillance. And this is really what Btwn brought to us, this financial surveillance state. Now, some of this trickled over from the Thump presidency, but most of it was Btwn. This is what he will be known for: financial surveillance, this assault on banks and privacy of citizens and their private finances. Now, there's two sides to this story. The people that believe in taxes and all that, they think that this is great because it evens the odds. But here's the problem. They're coming after the people that they're not even really making a lot of money on in taxes. A few $100s here, a few thousand there. They're coming after us. And what's happened is, this isn't about money and revenue for the IRS. It's about getting into your private finances. In other words, they'd have a lot bigger bang for their buck if they would close some of the loopholes that happen with the ultra rich. They would get a lot more money doing it that way. All these loopholes that the rich enjoy. Every time you see these rich people giving money away to St. Jude's and all these organizations, this is just, it's money laundering, basically. They're just washing their money. And somehow they get it back. I don't know how, but it's well known that these just aren't just benevolent people who love to help organizations and donate money. It's a tax loophole is what they're doing. And so that's where they're going to get their tax money from, not us, not going into people's bank accounts and getting their individual personal information. Not the guy who, the 21-year-old kid who wants to make some money by mowing lawns, and he's doing a service for people, but not paying taxes. He's not paying his $300 to $500 or $1,000 a year in taxes. This isn't where they're going to get their money, because as we know, there are billionaires that are paying almost no taxes in our country. Okay, like one billionaire, if they were to do their taxes correctly, would make up for all the small little things that the IRS is being petty over. Okay. Now, let's keep going with this. Let's keep reading this article. It says that this tax code will criminalize certain cryptocurrency transactions. And this person says, in their view, it violates the Fourth Amendment. Of course it does. It alters Section 6050 of the tax code, which requires businesses that receive more than $10,000 in cash to collect identity details of the person paying in cash and report the transaction to the government. So this would be the crypto exchanges. Currently, the U.S. government collects information from the cryptocurrency exchanges and other institutions that serve as the on-ramps and off-ramps where people buy, sell, and exchange. The updated law will impose reporting requirements on many other participants in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So they are getting down into the details of this, and basically this was just a big pipe dream. Now, I know a lot of people made a lot of money on this, but to know when to get in and when to get out, and to even be part of something that is so shady, I just think that it was bad from the get-go. And it actually helped these people to basically get more tax revenue is ultimately what it's going to help them do. Now, let's get into this next story. Enough about crypto. Well, the tide appears to be turning against the mandates, as we know. At least that's what they want us to think, right? And so USA Today did this article, "I'm done with masks. We've been idiotic about them since the beginning." Now, understand that USA Today is notorious for running these kinds of stories that are right on the edge of being critical of the mandates and all these things, right? But also understand that there have been people that just got knocked off of YouTube, for instance. I think I just read an article about some huge YouTuber that just got knocked off for saying this exact same thing about the mask. I think their statement was that well, we're not going to say it, but you know what the person said. So why does USA Today get to say it, but people on social media don't get to say it? So let's read this, see exactly what they're saying here. I think this is an opinion or editorial piece. Let's read through this. "We knew that little pieces of plastic or cloth worn over the nose and mouth could turn people into complete idiots. Masks have led us astray since the first days of VidCo, as with many ideas and trends. Ouchy was a leader when the new VidCo first began to spread. He argued that the general public shouldn't wear the masks. He says the typical mask isn't really effective, keeping out the virus." Now understand that as time went on, if you were to say this, once he changed gears here, then you got cancel cultured. You weren't allowed to say they weren't effective, but he said it first. Interesting world we live in, isn't it? Let's keep reading. But that wasn't what he really thought. He instead was worried that a rush from the public to buy masks would strip them from medical professionals who were treating VidCo patients. The idiotic part is that no resource, not even masks, is more vital to public health than the credibility of leaders who, during a crisis, need to ask people to do unpopular or uncomfortable things, like get stickers that were fast-tracked through the review process. Ouchy lost plenty of his credibility before VidCo was officially a spamdemic. Americans were then urged to wear cloth masks to save specialized medical-grade masks for the healthcare professionals and VidCo patients, and fights over mask mandates soon spread nationwide. Now, in light of Omicron, experts are saying, never mind. For instance, Dr. Wen, a health policy professor at George Washington University, said that cloth masks are little more than facial decoration. See how they get to say these things, but you can't? This should enrage everybody, because so many people have been saying this. Well, I feel like an idiot for all the times I don a facial decoration and force my kids to do the same. We've now been told to wear more effective medical grade N95 masks. The center, the C to the D to the C, said that they're the gold standard. And in what sounds like big news, Jiven will distribute 400 million N95s to Americans. There's a really important tool to stop the spread, especially of highly transmissible Omicron variant, Bo Jiven said. Finally, we all have the right masks, right? Not so fast. You'd have to be an idiot to think that this was the end of the great mask debate. So, here you go. They're coming out with it now. And the tides seem to be turning if USA was able to post this article without getting fact checked. Now, you and I both have been beaten over the head with how deadly VidCo is, haven't we? And we were told that those who don't get the sticker are actually responsible for other people dying. Yet, here's a new study where VidCo isn't so dangerous. Why? Because in the study, they're intentionally infecting people so they can look at it and study it. This is unbelievable. Let's read this. Wanted volunteers to catch VidCo in the name of science. The world's first medical trial authorized to deliberately expose participants to VidCo is seeking volunteers. Oxford University trial launched last April, 3 months after Britain became the first country to approve what is known as challenge trials for humans involving VidCo-19. Now understand that these people that they're intentionally infecting, like, what are they doing? Do they live in a quarantine facility to enable to do this? Are they allowed to leave and come and go with the possibility of infecting other people? Let's keep reading. Its first phase, still ongoing, is focused on finding out how much of the virus is needed to trigger an infarction, while the second will aim to determine the mooning of the city response needed to ward one off. You know, if you want to have a little fun after the show, when you watch this show back, turn on the closed captions, and you can see how everything that we say that we're using coded language, you know, that it comes up, and it's actually kind of funny. I actually watched it back a couple times. I'm like, this is actually kind of funny. Anyway, let's keep reading here. Researchers are close to establishing the weakest possible infarction that assures about half of the people exposed to it get asymptomatic or mild VidCo. They then plan to expose volunteers, all previously naturally infarcted or Pokemon stickered, to that dose of the virus's original variant to determine what levels of the antibodies or T cells are required to prevent an infarction. So they're running around now infarcting people. This is unbelievable. Participants will need to be healthy and age 18 to 30. They will be quarantined. Okay, so they are going to quarantine them for at least 17 days. But here's what I'm trying to figure out. This thing is supposed to be so deadly, and we were given such a hard time for not playing ball. And now they're just, you know, because they're saying, oh, this is deadly. And remember, they were just pumping this up in the media about how deadly this was. And day after day, we're just seeing unstickered people in the hospital on a ventilator every single day. Right? And now, all of a sudden, they're not worried about these people that they might die in this study. This makes absolutely no sense to me, unless they weren't telling us the truth from the beginning. Yeah. This next story is chilling. The same National Guard who provided security for the Eggnog the Nation. Remember, they filled up the entire mall in Washington? Well, now they are providing teaching in schools and daycare. Now, we saw this progression, the Eggnog the Nation, and then they were providing support in hospitals, and now it's teaching in schools. So what is the message here? The message here is we don't need you. If you don't want to play ball and get the sticker, we'll just have our Pokemon sticker National Guard do it. So you as an American don't matter. Your opinion doesn't matter. Now, this is a little too close for comfort for me, of course. Why is a soldier more qualified to teach my child than, let's say, a volunteer parent who maybe doesn't have a teaching degree or a master's degree? Now, I understand that many of these National Guard people do have qualifications, but are they specific to teaching and childcare? Let's read this article. Schools in New Mexico. This is in New Mexico, you guys. If you live there, expect to see National Guard showing up to your schools. Open Monday with a few different members of the community joining classrooms for the first time. Look, it's Look how they downplay this. A few different members of the community. They don't want you to get alarmed that there are people with, pop sticks and fatigues walking around in the general public. To help fill staffing gaps, 46 National Guard members and 13 state employees entered classrooms as substitute teachers in public schools and early child care centers. They cover about 7% of the need reported to the Public Education Department. Now understand that they always start slow with these kinds of things. They're only going to provide need or cover about 7% of the need because they don't want to alarm people. They have to gradually work this in. A week after the initiative was announced by the governor, wow, the governor was in on this. Monday was the first day for the new cohort of subs, and reports so far indicate that everything went smoothly. Of course it did. They're called Supporting Teachers and Families, is the name of the program, and they step in as substitute teachers. Now think about the programming going on here. Your child shows up to school and there's this really cool soldier standing in front of them. Now, I don't know if they're in their fatigues when they're doing the substitute teaching in daycare. I would imagine that they would change clothes, but imagine they were in their fatigues. That would be pretty bizarre, wouldn't it? So, 87 volunteers have signed up to work in schools, according to the governor's office. So far, 59 have completed their background check and initial licensing to work in classrooms, which they did for the first time on Monday. Now understand what's happening here. You've got the military, which the federal government has control over. Pretty much unanimously, most, like 96 to 99%, went ahead and got the sticker. So that means they're playing ball. So they're under the federal government's control. And so they know that as American citizens, we have many, many more rights and freedoms than the military. And many of us are exercising that freedom, aren't we? And so the way around this, the workaround by the federal government, is to start to chip away at this advantage that we have being out here in the private sector by injecting military, which they have complete control over, into these certain situations. And this is very worrisome to me. It's worrisome to me, first of all, that the men and women in uniform have unanimously pretty much decided to play ball and gone along with this. Now, there's precedent for this. Basically, when you go to the military, you sign your life away. So they don't really have much they can do except quit. But the ones that are left are playing ball for the feds. And so by desensitizing our children to these people in uniform, they're now starting to capture their hearts and minds away from true freedom and what it means to be an American. It also could be used as a recruiting tool. You think they're not going to use this opportunity to speak to our children about opportunities in the military? Of course they are. It says here, in addition to the new substitute teacher pool, 14 state employees are signed up to work with the youngest New Mexicans at early child care centers. Wow. Their primary goal is to stay in schools, even though that they can request to work in child care facilities. So we got deployments, military deployments into our schools with our children. Optimally, a certified experienced teacher in a room full of kids is what we all need to see. And I mean, there's plenty of parents who would volunteer to do this kind of thing or get paid to do this kind of thing. I don't know why they had to bring the National Guard in to do this. National Guard members are on state active duty, so they will receive pay for housing and travel to communities where they're deployed as educators. State waived their fee to undergo background checks. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of that article. I mean, this goes on, but I'm not going to read this whole article. Now, what else do we have here? Well, here's an update on where we are with another battle that is brewing, the extinction of natural gas in America. I call natural gas the freedom gas because This gas can be trucked anywhere, and it allows many people, millions of Americans, to live outside of the grid in unincorporated areas and survive. You can heat your home for very inexpensive, a lot less expensive than electricity, and many other things you can use it for. And so now there's an attack on natural gas. They're blaming it on climate change, but really we know this is about freedom. They want all of us dependent on the grid, because then they can force us to work, to pay, to be in the grid, and then we don't have time to object to their lunacy. They don't want a bunch of people sitting around thinking about how bad we're getting screwed. So they'd rather have you busy working at McDonald's 40 hours a week and not have time to think about all this stuff. Keepers of the flame versus climate change reduction. Gas bans worry cooks. Now, for anybody that cooks, we all understand that gas is way better than electric, especially when you're carefully preparing certain meals. You need gas stove versus electric. It says humans have been cooking with fire for millennia, but with concerns over greenhouse gas emissions rising, some cities are banning natural gas in the kitchens of the future and creating a policy dilemma. Can we slow warming and still eat well? It's not just about eating well. See, they're trying to trivialize this. Dozens of jurisdictions, from Massachusetts to San Francisco, have moved to ban new gas hookups for heating and cooking, and New York last month brought its heft to the trend, setting restrictions on fossil fuel usage in new buildings by phasing in emission limits beginning next year. Wow. Now think about this for a minute. You got a kitchen, and all of a sudden they're going to have you stick some kind of monitor on your pipe, your stove pipe that's, burning fuel out into the environment. And now you got to cap what you can do. If this isn't a clue about the attack on small business, I don't know what else is for some people. Just one more thing. Culinary angst over the bans among those who find flame cooking superior has sparked a blowback of bans on bans. Some localities, at least 19 states, of course it's 19 states, right, have passed laws to prevent municipalities from restricting new natural gas connections. Wow. Now, this is just lame, because what happens when the power goes out? How are you going to cook food? Think about an emergency situation. If we had some robust electrical grid that never went down, and that was priced fairly, where it didn't cost a lot of money, I think a lot of people might be open to this. But as we all know, the electricity sounds good when we're not using a lot of it. But as soon as you start hooking a bunch of things up in your house to the electrical grid, your bill will skyrocket. Case in point, people who plug in an electric heater can almost double your electric bill. Unbelievable. So natural gas is now a key target. This is what they're coming after next. Methane released from natural gas systems accounts for 3% of greenhouse emissions. That's like nothing. 3% of greenhouse emissions from natural gas? Come on. Hello? Well, pretty soon they're going to say you can't burn a fire. They're going to say burning of fires is a greenhouse. I mean, this is just crazy. So I just wanted to keep you guys, abreast of this so that you can see what is happening, where this is headed. You can see which places you don't want to live, because if you love natural gas, you're not going to want to live in some of these places, because this is where it's all headed, and it's only going to get worse as they continue to ramp this thing up. What is this here? Okay, so this next story is creepy. Now, on January 20th, as you can see here, as we get into this next story, we did this live show decode on the Netflix series Archive 81. And in that series, we decoded that there was a comet that bore a Carinite stone. In other words, this Carinite stone came from this comet in the series. And then from that came the black goo. Well, why am I saying all this? Well, the very next day, the 21st, after we covered this, there was a huge black diamond discovered from outer space with many of the same characteristics. Born of a meteorite or comet, and the name of this is called Enigma. Now, what makes this very bizarre is the numbers surrounding this story. It was cut to 555.55 carats and 55 facets. And everybody knows, who knows anything about the occult, that 555 is really 666. Now, why is that? Well, you can do that research on your own, but if you just type in 555 is 666, it will give you the answer. But 555, here's another reason why 555 is 666, because think about when you say, and listen very carefully when I say 555, it sounds like vav, 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 doesn't it? Which is 666 in another language. But basically, they found this massive alien diamond. Look at this thing. I don't believe in aliens. I think anytime they say aliens, they're really meaning demonic. This is a demonic diamond. And look at this. It looks just like the Karenite stone the day before that we had decoded in Archive 81. You see a reflection in it, and it like morphs your reflection. Takes you into another dimension or something. A one-of-a-kind black diamond, dubbed the Enigma, will go up for auction next month and is expected to sell for more than $7 million. So you have your 5 and you have your 7, your 57, which of course is gee whiz. That links into all this as well. So this was in Dubai, a massive black gem, may have come from outer space. It's the largest cut black diamond in the world. The diamond is based on the Middle Eastern palm symbol of Kamsa. Wow, just like Karenite was spelled K-H, wasn't it? And this one's called Kamsa. Which stands for strength, and it stands for protection. Now, because Kamsa means 5 in Arabic, there's a nice theme of the number 5 running throughout the diamond. Of course, that's what it's about, right? So, this is the newest on this crazy diamond. Look at the size of this thing. That almost looks like a reflection there. Unbelievable. Black diamond. All right. Now, this next story, this is a heads up in case I go missing for a week. This is what YouTube is doing now. Now, understand that every 6 months, YouTube updates its terms and conditions. And basically, if a channel gets a strike, which means that you are suspended from your channel for either 1 or 2 weeks, based on which strike you got, you're not allowed to go on a backup channel during that week or 2 weeks and upload a video. Now, as far as I knew, when I got a Google account, I thought all of my channels were independent of one another and that Google really didn't know or care about the different channels under my account. Well, apparently they do, and they have an algorithm that can seek and see if any of your other channels, it could be a fishing channel, if you uploaded anything on any of those other channels for that week or 2 weeks. Now, this is important because some of you have YouTube channels, so this is important to understand because this is the final straw with YouTube. If you do that, they will do away with your entire Google account, all your channels, and you can never upload to YouTube again. So this is why this is very important. I know some of you who have pretty substantial channels come to this channel. 7 Grains is one of them. There's a few others I can't think of off the top of my head, but understand that if you do catch a strike, you pretty much just have to disappear for a week. You can't upload anything. So if you see that happen on this channel, I go 3 or 4 or 5 days without uploading something, without letting you know, understand I probably got a strike, and I'm not going to be able to upload on the backup channels either. Now, they let you upload until you get caught. you'd think that if they were serious about this, they would just disable your ability to upload on all your channels. But instead, they wait for you to do it so that they can wipe you clean off the platform. And that's what happened to this guy. Now, I don't know who this guy is. Don Bongino. I don't really follow faux news, and because it's just the right side of the right-left paradigm, and they just keep the charade going. But this is what happened to this guy. They wiped him off the platform. Unbelievable. So they're always trying to find ways to get rid of people, aren't they? All right. So, what else is going on here? Well, here's the last story for today. And what they've done here is they've repackaged the practice called hypnotism. And all they did was rename it Falling Asleep in 2 Minutes. So this TikTok video went viral. And this guy basically showed people this secret military technique that helps you fall asleep in 2 minutes. But let me read this to you, because this sounds like hypnotism. Now, this is crazy, because look at the hypocrisy here. Okay. All these social media platforms talk about medical misinfo and dangerous acts. Do you think it would be dangerous for someone to hypnotize themselves? What if they never woke up? But yet this stuff goes viral, and they don't care about this. Some people have issues with strobing lights and things like that. And are easily put under through hypnosis. I mean, there's a million things that could go wrong with something like this. Let's read this. Augustine posted the TikTok video last week with the caption, "Technique to falling asleep in 2 minutes." It has since garnered over, of course, 6.6 million views. According to the Filipino fitness coach from Montreal, the trick was developed in the military, mainly for fighter pilots, to help soldiers fall asleep at any time and anywhere, including in uncomfortable and tumultuous environments. Augustine explained that sleep is crucial for soldiers in battle, as sleep deprivation may reduce their focus and reflexes. First, you need to calm your body and systematically relax, and shut down each part of your body from head to toe, literally. Then it says to successfully execute the trick, one must clear their thoughts. He suggests 2 scenarios to picture while clearing your mind of any stress. You're lying in a canoe on a calm lake with nothing but a clear blue sky above you. So I'm not going to go into this much more, because I don't want to hypnotize you guys just by telling you this. This stuff is dangerous. But understand that basically this counting backwards and all this, and counting and breathing and visualization, this is hypnotism. He then goes on to tell his viewers that they must practice this technique every night for 6 weeks. And he claimed that 96% of people who mastered the military trick are able to fall asleep within 2 minutes after closing their eyes. Wow. So, weird times. Let me go back here in the chat. I've been away for a while. Sorry, you guys. I usually check in with you once or twice. But now tomorrow, I have a special treat for you guys. For those of you guys that will show up on Friday, you're not going to believe what I have for you. Another Fringe episode, TV series Fringe, about a virus from a super deep borehole found during oil exploration. Can anyone say Super Deep, the movie? I mean, it's almost an exact copy of the movie. So we'll get into that tomorrow. I've already got the montage already edited. I just got to do some show notes. And then we'll be back on there tomorrow, exact same time. And we will cover this Fringe episode from 2010. Wow. Okay, let's go into the chat for a bit. Soldiers are just experimented like mice. I agree 100%. I mean, there's a reason why it's hard to fall asleep as a soldier, because you're taking people out from however many tens of thousands of feet in the air. That's troubling. I couldn't imagine many of them can sleep at night. Wow. Did it get your email on the heroes? Yes, I did get that email. I believe. I remember seeing that. I get a lot of emails, you guys, probably a couple hundred to 300 emails a day from you guys. And I appreciate it, but I just don't want you to feel hurt if you feel like I missed the email. It's just a lot to go through. Here's what you can do. And I've mentioned this before. When you send me an email, don't just send a link. That's one rule. Because if you do that, I almost will never click on the link just because I don't know what's in the link. And if I go to a link and I have to read through an article for 15 or 20 minutes only to realize that maybe it was not a lead that I could use, then I've pretty much, my time is I have a very efficient life. Let's put it that way. So I have to be very careful about, what rabbit holes I go down. Let's put it that way. So what you can do is in the subject matter, just put exactly the bullet point of how this ties into what we were talking about. That's the first thing. Then put the link and then 2 sentences about why I need to look at the link and what timestamp of the video you need me to read. Okay. And if you do that, then I will read 100% of those emails. But if it doesn't come in that format, usually I just skip it. I'll just look at the subject and I'll just kind of skip past it because, like I said, I get 300 emails a day, and if I didn't do that, you would never see me. I would never have time to do a video. So this is about time management, and over the years, I've learned little tricks to have the best time management so I can keep in contact with you guys, but also still put up videos, do all the editing that I have to do, and all the other things that come with a YouTube channel, right? All right, that's a great question. Thanks for that. Okay. Yes, Bible reading is probably the best way to fall asleep. I would say that's a truly safe way to fall asleep. Falling asleep, listening to the word. I had a friend once back when my YouTube channel first started, and I was actually still in the workforce, and he would fall asleep with the TV blaring. And even back then, when I was in my infancy of waking up, I would think to myself, what is the psychological effect of someone falling asleep in front of a TV that is literally blaring at them with all the programming, and this person could be dead asleep while the TV's blaring all night long? I remember I go to his house and the night before we go fishing, and I couldn't sleep from the TV blaring in the next room. So, yeah, you got to be careful what comes through your senses in that state, in that beta state while you're sleeping. I'm sure there's little things that they put in the programming to just for those people who love to fall asleep with the TV on. They're subliminally programming you. All right. Unless you have anxiety, noise will keep me awake. All right. It goes into your spirit while you're asleep. Listen to the Holy Bible at night. Many of you don't even have a TV in your bedroom. That's great. I don't have a TV in my house. Okay. Now, this is a good, what we're talking about now is good for you, some of you to hear. The same applies with emails and the amount of time that you actually spend with certain things in social media. I'd like us all to be a little bit better about not going toe to toe with every single person we disagree with on the channel in the comment section. It's a huge waste of time. It's okay to come back with something, but if you see a person is just there to engage you and take up all your time and get you all upset, it's not worth it, you guys. Just walk away. Pick your battles. Same applies with email. Don't get all, wrapped up in emails. Try to fix your spam system in your emails so you don't get so much, so much communication that is negative. Negative communication. We got to try to minimize that. Here on this channel, I have pretty much a zero tolerance rule. If someone disagrees with me, that's great. That's fine. But as soon as someone starts getting rude or attacking or things like this, I'll usually give them like one chance and then I just block them. And a lot of people don't like that. But you know what? If you can't treat me the way that I treat you, have common courtesy, and we can have a disagreement and a discussion, then I don't have time for it, because I could literally spend hours and hours a day debating with people and never get anything else done trying to prove my point. And so at the end of the day, the message is, if you don't agree with the information on this channel or you don't like me, don't watch the channel. And if you need help being excused from the channel, I can help you do that. And that's pretty much the way it works. Now, as you guys know, that rule goes both ways. So I have to allow sometimes people things that you don't want to hear in the comment section because they were polite and they just made their point politely. And it's oftentimes things we don't agree with, but I allow it to happen because there is free speech here. It's just when people start doing verbal attacks and things and ruining the spirit of the channel, trying to, cause drama and things like that. And when I have to take time out of my day to like step in and, what there's an expression that I'm trying to think of that's used. I have to herd the cats, or I have to separate people that are fighting, So you guys all know how YouTube is. And it's to the point now where YouTube's actually going after people for their comments, sending us strange emails saying, well, we noticed that some of your comments were troubling. And so in order for all of us to stay on here, why don't we all just go by the rules? We can still talk about what we need to talk about, but just try to clean it up a little bit. You know what I mean? So, all right. I can't wait for tomorrow's show. And I guess we will be back tomorrow. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks everybody for showing up. Have a great rest of your day. Take care and be safe.